We got this high tunnel in 2010, and here it is 2016. So we've learned a lot. We've grown a lot of different crops, as you can see, and I've made modifications as time has changed.
Randy and Laura Pierce took advantage of an NRCS special initiative through the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, or EQIP, to build their high tunnel. NRCS defines a high tunnel as an enclosed plastic or fabric-covered structure at least 6 feet high, which is used to cover and protect crops from sun, wind, excessive rainfall, or cold to extend the growing season. Unlike greenhouses, they require no energy, relying on natural sunlight to modify the climate inside to create more favorable conditions for growing vegetable and other specialty crops.
I've got eggplant right here. Behind the eggplant I got broccoli. Behind the broccoli I got asparagus. I got Brussels sprouts. At the end over here I got fennel. Then I got corn. This is a salad mix that I've reseeded once already. You saw the peppers, the tomatoes. I've got onions, beets, and cucumbers.
The local community benefits from the high tunnel's abundance.
We do sell produce to a kitchen, produce to a restaurant, and we do one CSA, which is a community-supported agriculture contract.
Randy describes some of the modifications made to the high tunnel since it was built in 2010.
I put these bales at the edges of the big opening of the end to stop any unwanted pests that crawl on the ground and to stop any wind, that could damage these crops in the fall. I changed the supports to narrow down the gap in these roll-up ends because they were too wide. This gap has now cut the distance in half, and that really benefited any wind condition from damaging the doors. Once they allowed electricity to be brought into high tunnels, and that was not in 2010, but they allow it today, I put lights in here so that I can harvest in the dark.
The Pierces have made several changes to improve pollination of the crops and produce better yields.
You need movement on a lot of these crops for pollination. You got insects, but in order for crops to pollinize, they need a nice temperature, a comfortable temperature. They need in the range of 70 degrees. And so that's why I drop the sides down. That's why I open up the ends with a netting over it. And that's to regulate the temperatures. Now, another thing I did is I added this shade cloth. And that really had made it nice now that I almost feel like putting a rocking chair in here and sitting and watching this stuff grow. All of that together helps pollination, helps these crops grow, and the yields are doing pretty good now.
Pollinators are not the only beneficial insects in the high tunnel. Ladybug larvae help control aphids.
Here's one right there, a ladybug alligator. And you can see it's got like 2 orange stripes on them. They just move around eating those aphids, and then they change into a ladybug. I've got a lot of those up and down this pepper row because aphids love to get into the peppers. They're not moving into the tomatoes, so I think they're keeping them at bay pretty good.
Randy also made modifications to his micro-irrigation system. He added a buried drip system to the existing above-ground system.
I can irrigate at the roots, or I can irrigate on the surface to germinate. I tilled the ground back up to hide the trenches of where I buried the drip system. And I tore up some of the drip system I just buried. So the challenge was maybe not tilling so deep, maybe not even tilling anymore. Just trying to get these crops in without or with a minimal of tillage. I put a irrigation timer unit in that controls the irrigation system, so this place irrigates without me being here.
He sets the timer and the controller for the irrigation system based on readings from tensiometers placed among the crops.
You fill these tubes with water, and as the plant is really pulling water, the scale will move on this tensiometer. When you see the scale move, you got to determine what is a really, I'll call it a sweet spot for this dial to stay at, and that's where the management becomes important. You want to irrigate so that you don't go high or low of your point. Because I've monitored those tensiometers for years now, I could put a list together right here of how long I could run this timer and how many days of intervals I can run it. So I change every month the setting on the timer and the controller.
Randy has some recommendations for those who would like to start using high tunnels.
One of the recommendations I would make on a pick of a high tunnel is how these sides control the movement of air through here and regulate the temperatures. What you'll see that I have, they're called drop-down sides. What I like about the drop-down sides as opposed to the raised up sides is I can regulate any of the temperatures from about a 4-foot level by dropping the curtain down to a level that's above the ground. You see I probably got about 3 feet on this one. I'll get raccoons that walk around here, and the raccoons might be able to smell the sweet corn that I got over here, but because they can't see the sweet corn, they don't get into the high tunnel. You've got to do the maintenance, and it doesn't matter if it's on the irrigation system or the plastic. You've got to do the maintenance or your system will collapse on you. The system will not work right. They still have the high tunnel program in the NRCS, and it's a nice way for producers to get a high tunnel.
6 years into the endeavor, the Pierces are pleased with the yields from their high tunnel. They have increased crop success through modifications that improve irrigation water management, temperature and wind regulation, and pollination. With their high tunnel, they are able to extend the short Montana growing season and make healthy, locally grown crops available to local consumers. For additional information on high tunnels, visit the USDA Service Center in your area.